The darkness between stars held secrets older than most civilizations could imagine. In this empty space where light itself seemed hesitant to travel, a small ship drifted through the void like a forgotten memory. Its hull was ancient, covered in layers of cosmic dust that had accumulated over centuries of silent wandering. Commander Vren stood before the viewing screen, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence as he processed what his instruments were telling him. His exoskeleton clicked softly as he shifted his weight, a habit from his homeworld where such sounds warned others of approach. Beside him, Cathara hummed at a frequency only partially audible to most species. The crystalline being's body refracted the ship's internal lights into dancing patterns across the walls. "This cannot be accurate," Vren said, his mandibles clicking with uncertainty. "The dating systems must be malfunctioning." Cathara's hum shifted to a lower tone, indicating disagreement. "I have verified the reading 7 times, Commander. The vessel before us has been drifting for approximately 412 standard years. Its design matches no known civilization in the Consortium database. The Consortium of United Civilizations had mapped the galaxy for over 100,000 years. They had contacted, studied, and peacefully integrated 439 species into their Grand Alliance. Every planet capable of developing intelligent life was catalogued. Every species was known. There were no surprises left in the universe until now. Vren authorized the docking procedure. The ancient ship was small by Consortium standards, barely large enough to hold a crew of 24. Its hull was scarred by micrometeorite impacts, and one section showed signs of emergency repairs made long ago. As the airlocks connected, Vren felt something he had not experienced in his 3 centuries of exploration: genuine uncertainty. The interior of the alien vessel was cold. Emergency lighting flickered weakly, powered by backup systems that had somehow survived the centuries. The walls were decorated with symbols and characters that seemed almost familiar, as if they were distant cousins of languages the Consortium knew. But they were not in any database. Cathara moved through the corridors with careful precision, her crystalline form casting strange shadows in the dim light. "There are life pods here," she reported. 37 of them, all in stasis. Vren's primary heart began beating faster. Living specimens from an unknown species? The discovery would revolutionize everything they knew about galactic development. He approached the nearest pod and cleared away the frost that had formed on its viewing window. The face that looked back at him was startling in its simplicity. 2 eyes positioned forward for binocular vision, a nose for breathing and scent detection, a mouth with lips covering what appeared to be an omnivore's teeth. The being's skin was smooth, its hair dark, and its features arranged in a pattern that somehow seemed significant, though Vren could not explain why. "They look almost peaceful," Cathara observed, her tone carrying notes of surprise. Vren examined the pod's controls. They were primitive but functional, designed with redundancy that had kept the occupants alive for centuries. "Begin documentation of everything. I want full scans of the ship, its contents, and these beings. We must understand where they came from before we wake them." The exploration took 3 full days. The alien ship was a treasure trove of information. They found digital storage devices, physical books, and even handwritten journals. The Consortium's translation algorithm struggled at first, but slowly the alien language began to make sense. It was called English, and the beings called themselves humans. The humans came from a planet they named Earth, located in a distant spiral arm of the galaxy that the Consortium had classified as uninhabitable due to its position in a region of intense radiation bursts. Yet somehow life had evolved there anyway. The humans had reached out into space during what they called their Exodus program, sending colony ships to distant stars in a desperate attempt to survive some catastrophe their records vaguely referenced as the collapse. What fascinated Vren most were the human cultural records. These beings had developed differently from almost every species in the Consortium. Where most civilizations moved steadily from competition to cooperation, humans seemed to embrace both simultaneously. Their history was filled with conflicts, yes, but also with art, philosophy, and scientific achievement born from the friction between opposing ideas. "Look at this," Cathara said, projecting an image from the human database. It showed Earth, a blue and green world of stunning beauty. "Their planet is rich with life. The biodiversity indices are extraordinary." Vren studied the data carefully, and their coordinates are here in their navigation computer. They expected to return someday, or at least to be followed by others of their kind. Should we wake them? Cathara asked. Vren considered the question. It was the most significant decision of his long career. Yes, but carefully. We must understand them before we reveal too much about the consortium. Every first contact is delicate. They selected one pod to open first. The human inside was a woman, according to the medical data, approximately 40 standard years old when she entered stasis. Her name was recorded as Dr. Sarah Chen, expedition scientist. As the pod system slowly brought her back to consciousness, Vren prepared his translation device. The human's eyes opened slowly. For a moment she seemed confused, her gaze unfocused. Then awareness returned and she sat up quickly, her breath coming in short gasps. She looked at Vren and Cathara, and her expression shifted through several emotions in rapid succession. Shock, fear, wonder, and finally, cautious curiosity. "Welcome back to consciousness," Vren said through his translator. "You are safe. We are explorers from the Consortium of United Civilizations. We found your ship drifting in space." Sarah Chen's mouth opened, closed, then opened again. "How long?" she whispered. "How long were we asleep?" "Over 4 centuries by our calculations." The human's face went pale. She gripped the edge of the pod, her knuckles turning white. 400 years? But that means the colony mission failed. We never reached our destination. Your ship suffered a critical malfunction, Cathara explained gently. Your navigation systems failed and you drifted off course. But you survived, and now we have found you. Over the following hours, they woke the other humans carefully one by one. The reactions varied from tears to laughter to stunned silence. Each human seemed to process the situation differently, yet they all looked to Sarah Chen for guidance, suggesting some form of hierarchy or trust. Once all 37 humans were awake and had been given time to recover, Vren called a formal meeting in the colony ship's common area. The humans gathered, wrapped in thermal blankets, their eyes wide with questions. "We have much to discuss," Vren began. "First, you should know that your species is not in our records. You evolved in isolation, unknown to the consortium. This is extremely rare." A human man, introduced as Marcus Webb, spoke up. "This consortium of yours, how many species are in it?" 439 civilizations, Cathara answered with pride. "United in peace and cooperation for over 100,000 years." The humans exchanged glances. Sarah Chen leaned forward. "And Earth? Our homeworld? Do your records show what happened to it?" Vren hesitated. "We have not yet traveled to your coordinates. That region of space has been classified as uninhabitable by our surveys. But we intend to change that classification and visit your homeworld immediately." "We want to go with you," Sarah said firmly. "We need to know what happened to Earth, to our people." It was agreed. The human colony ship was too damaged to make the journey, so the humans transferred to Vren's consortium vessel. During the 3-week journey to Earth, Vren and his crew learned more about humanity. They were a paradoxical species, capable of great violence but also profound compassion, driven by logic yet swayed by emotion, individualistic yet yearning for connection. What troubled Vren was how often humans asked about conflict. They wanted to know about the consortium's military, its defense systems, its enemies. When told that the consortium had no enemies, that peace had been achieved ages ago, the humans seemed skeptical. "In our experience," Marcus Webb said during one conversation, "peace is something you have to fight for. It doesn't just happen because everyone decides to be nice." Cathara found this perspective disturbing, but surely, given sufficient advancement and wisdom, intelligent beings naturally choose cooperation over conflict. Sarah Chen smiled sadly. "Maybe. Or maybe they choose it because they have no other choice." When they finally emerged from faster-than-light travel near Earth's coordinates, what they found shocked everyone. Earth was not only habitable but thriving. Cities glittered across the night side of the planet. Orbital stations dotted the space around it. Ships moved between Earth and its moon with regular precision. Humanity had not only survived but flourished. "There must be billions of them," Vren breathed, his instruments showing population concentrations across all continents. Sarah Chen stared at her homeworld through the viewport, tears streaming down her face. "We made it. Humanity survived." But as Vren initiated first contact protocols broadcasting the standard consortium greeting, something unexpected happened. The human response was not one of joy or welcome. Every ship in orbit changed course to intercept them. Defensive satellites activated, and a stern voice came through their communication system. Unidentified vessel, you have entered United Earth space without authorization. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded for inspection. We have no weapons, Vren responded quickly. We are explorers from the Consortium of United Civilizations. We come in peace and bring some of your lost people home. There was a long pause. Then the voice returned, slightly less aggressive but still cautious. Consortium? We have no record of any consortium. Transmit your credentials and maintain your current position. Any deviation will be treated as a hostile act. Kithara's harmonics shifted to a confused frequency. This is unusual. First contact protocol should not involve such suspicion. Sarah Chen moved to the communication station. This is Dr. Sarah Chen of the Exodus program. Colony ship designation Terra Nova 7. We are humans returning home. Please confirm our identity and grant clearance for our rescuers. Another pause, then the voice cracked with emotion. Dr. Chen? The databases show you've been missing for over 400 years. Stand by for verification. What followed was the most complex first contact Vren had ever experienced. The humans of Earth were sophisticated, cautious, and intensely curious. They granted permission for the consortium ship to enter orbit, but maintained a constant military presence. Teams of human officials came aboard, not with wonder but with detailed questionnaires and scanning equipment. Ambassador Helena Zhao led the Earth delegation. She was an older woman with silver hair and sharp eyes that seemed to evaluate everything. Commander Vren, we appreciate you returning our lost citizens, but we have many questions about this consortium of yours. And we are happy to answer them, Vren replied. We wish to extend an invitation to humanity to join the consortium. You would have access to advanced technology, peaceful trade, and a place among the galactic community. Ambassador Zhao smiled politely. That's very generous. But we have questions first. You say you've united 439 species in peace. How exactly did you accomplish that? Vren explained the principles of the consortium: mutual respect, shared knowledge, and the understanding that cooperation benefited all. He spoke of the sacred accords, the agreements that bound all member species to peaceful resolution of disputes. The ambassador listened carefully, taking notes. And if a species refuses to join, what happens then? That has never happened, Kithara interjected. Every species we have contacted has seen the wisdom of the consortium and joined willingly. Every single one? Marcus Webb, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. In 100,000 years, not one species said no? Not one, Vren confirmed with pride. The humans exchanged glances again, and Vren noticed something in their expressions that made his exoskeleton tighten with unease. It was not wonder or admiration. It was suspicion. Sarah Chen cleared her throat. Ambassador, we need to discuss this privately. As humans. Agreed, Zhao nodded. Commander Vren, we'll need time to consider your offer. In the meantime, you and your crew are welcome to visit Earth. We'll provide accommodations and arrange for cultural exchanges. Over the following weeks, Vren and his crew experienced Earth. It was unlike any world in the consortium. The humans had not achieved perfect harmony. Their cities were chaotic, filled with competing businesses, diverse cultures, and open debates about everything from politics to philosophy. They had conflicts, disagreements, and problems they had not solved. Yet they also had something the consortium world seemed to lack: a vibrant, unpredictable energy. Every human Vren met had different opinions, different goals, different dreams. They argued passionately about their ideas, but seemed to respect each other's right to disagree. At a diplomatic reception, Vren found himself speaking with a human historian named Dr. James Okafor. Your species is remarkable, Vren said, but also confusing. You have achieved interstellar travel, yet you still struggle with basic social cohesion. Dr. Okafor laughed. That's humanity for you. We're messy, complicated, and we rarely agree on anything, but that's also our strength. How can disunity be strength? Because we're always challenging each other, pushing boundaries, questioning assumptions. We evolve through friction, Commander. Maybe that's inefficient, but it keeps us dynamic. Vren considered this. It was so different from consortium philosophy, where unity and harmony were the highest goals. But surely, given time, humanity will mature beyond such conflicts. Dr. Okafor's smile faded. Commander, can I ask you something? These 439 species in your consortium, do they ever disagree with each other? Do they have debates about the direction of your civilization? We discuss matters, of course, but we always reach consensus. The Accords ensure that always? Every single time? The historian's eyes narrowed. That's not consensus, Commander. That's something else. That night, Vren could not rest. He kept thinking about Dr. Okafor's words, about the human reactions to the consortium's perfect record of acceptance. He accessed the consortium's historical database, something he had never thought to question before. The records were clear. Every species contacted by the consortium had joined willingly and quickly. There were no long negotiations, no refusals, no conflicts. Each civilization simply saw the wisdom of membership and agreed. 439 species, 439 perfect acceptances. For the first time in his 3 centuries of life, Vren felt something cold settle in his primary heart. The humans saw something wrong with this pattern, and now that he looked at it through their eyes, he saw it too. Perfect acceptance was not natural. Perfect consensus was not normal. Something was deeply, terribly wrong with the consortium's history, and somehow the humans had already figured it out. The consortium's first contact fleet arrived at Earth 3 months after Vren's initial discovery. 37 magnificent vessels emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with the accumulated artistry of 100 civilizations. Each ship was a masterpiece designed not for war but for inspiration. They came bearing gifts, knowledge, and the promise of a better future. Ambassador Chen Wei stood on the observation deck of Earth's primary orbital station, watching the alien fleet approach. She was a woman in her 60s, with gray-streaked hair pulled back in a practical bun and eyes that had seen humanity claw its way back from the brinkest of extinction. Next to her stood Admiral David Kowalski, his military uniform crisp despite the tension evident in his shoulders. "They're beautiful," Chen Wei admitted, watching the light play across the alien vessels, like floating works of art. "They're also a threat," Kowalski replied quietly. "Any fleet that size could sterilize Earth in minutes, no matter how pretty they look. They say they come in peace. Everyone says that." The Admiral pulled up a holographic display showing tactical analysis. "Our intelligence has been working overtime since Commander Vren's ship arrived. The data he provided about the consortium is disturbing." Chen Wei nodded. The United Earth Council had spent weeks analyzing every scrap of information about the consortium. What they found was a civilization spanning thousands of worlds, technologically advanced beyond human comprehension, and utterly, perfectly unified. No wars, no conflicts, no serious disagreements in over 100,000 years. It was impossible, or it should have been. "They're hailing us," an operator announced. "Standard diplomatic channels." "Put them through," Chen Wei said, straightening her jacket. The holographic display shifted to show 3 alien figures. In the center stood a being that resembled a bipedal mantis, its chitinous body covered in what appeared to be ceremonial robes. To its left was something that looked like a floating jellyfish made of light. To its right was a humanoid figure with crystalline skin and too many joints. "Greetings, Ambassador Chen Wei of Earth," the mantis-like being said through a translation device. "I am High Coordinator Zinthal of the Consortium of United Civilizations. We are honored to formally welcome humanity to the galactic community." Chen Wei bowed slightly, a gesture her cultural advisors had suggested. "Thank you, High Coordinator. Earth is pleased to establish relations with your consortium." "We come bearing gifts," Zinthal continued. "Medical technology to end disease, energy systems to solve your resource problems, educational frameworks to accelerate your development. All we ask in return is friendship and eventual membership in our alliance." "That's very generous," Chen Wei replied carefully, "but we'll need time to discuss such matters with our government." The crystalline being spoke up, its voice like wind chimes. "Of course. We understand this is overwhelming. Perhaps we could begin with cultural exchanges? We would love to learn about humanity, and we have so much to share with you." Admiral Kowalski leaned close to Chen Wei and whispered, "They're pushing too hard. Nobody gives away technology like that without wanting something in return." Chen Wei nodded slightly but kept her diplomatic smile. "Cultural exchanges would be wonderful. We propose starting with small delegations, academic and scientific personnel, who can help us understand each other better." "Excellent," Zinthal said. We will arrange everything. May this be the beginning of a long and harmonious friendship. After the communication ended, Chen Wei turned to her staff. Get me everything we have on psychological warfare, indoctrination techniques, and mass persuasion. If they've convinced 439 species to join them without a single refusal, I want to know how. Over the following weeks, Earth buzzed with activity. Alien delegations arrived, carefully monitored by human security. They toured cities, gave lectures at universities, and demonstrated their technology. The consortium representatives were unfailingly polite, generous, and enthusiastic about humanity. Dr. Sarah Chen, the woman rescued from the colony ship, had been assigned as a liaison between Earth and the consortium. She spent her days accompanying alien visitors and her nights filing detailed reports. What she observed troubled her. The consortium aliens were happy. Too happy. They smiled constantly, agreed with each other effortlessly, and never seemed to experience frustration or doubt. They spoke about their perfect society with genuine belief, describing a utopia where every need was met and every being lived in harmony. It reminded Sarah of cult members she had studied in graduate school before the Exodus program. The same absolute certainty, the same peaceful contentment, the same inability to conceive of alternatives. She shared her concerns with Ambassador Chen Wei over coffee in a secure facility. They're not lying, Sarah explained. That's what makes it so disturbing. They genuinely believe everything they're saying. They think their consortium is paradise, but you don't, Chen Wei asked. I think it's a cage, Sarah said quietly. A beautiful, comfortable cage where everyone is so happy they don't realize they're trapped. Chen Wei nodded slowly. We've been digging into their history. The parts Commander Vren gave us access to. Every species they contacted became a member within 1 year. Most within months. They all embraced consortium philosophy completely, abandoned their old ways, and integrated seamlessly. That's not natural assimilation. That's conversion. Exactly. Chen Wei pulled up a secure file on her tablet. We have linguists analyzing the consortium's records. They found something interesting. There are gaps in every species' historical records at the moment of first contact. Not big gaps, just a few weeks or months where documentation becomes sparse and then resumes with a completely different tone. Sarah leaned forward, like something happened during that period that changed how they thought. Or like whatever happened made them rewrite their own histories to fit a new narrative. Chen Wei sighed. The problem is we can't prove anything. The consortium hasn't done anything hostile. They're offering us gifts, technology, knowledge. Refusing them makes us look paranoid and aggressive. But accepting might mean losing ourselves, Sarah finished. At the same time, human scientists were conducting their own investigations. Dr. James Okafor had been granted access to a consortium historical archive ship that orbited Earth's moon. It was supposed to be a gesture of goodwill, allowing human researchers to learn about galactic civilization. What James discovered in those archives made his blood run cold. He found records of species that no longer existed in the consortium database. Civilizations that had been contacted had initially refused membership, and then simply vanished from all subsequent records. It was as if they had been erased. When he asked his consortium liaison about these missing species, the alien seemed genuinely confused. I have no knowledge of such civilizations, the being said. Perhaps you are reading the data incorrectly? But James knew data, and he knew what he had found. He made copies of everything, hiding the information in encrypted files that he smuggled back to Earth in his own neural implant. Meanwhile, other humans were noticing strange patterns. Sociologists observed that every consortium civilization had remarkably similar governmental structures, despite claiming to maintain their individual cultures. Artists found that alien art, while superficially diverse, followed the same underlying aesthetic principles across all species. Philosophers noted that different alien religions all seemed to have been reinterpreted to align with identical moral frameworks. It was uniformity masquerading as diversity. Marcus Webb, one of the rescued colonists, worked as a military consultant during this period. His job was to assess the consortium's defensive capabilities. What he found was perhaps most disturbing of all. They had none. The consortium has no weapons, he reported to Admiral Kowalski. Not on their ships, not on their stations, not on their worlds. They have shields and defensive systems, but no capacity to project force. How is that possible? Kowalski asked. They've been spacefaring for 100,000 years. They must have had conflicts. They claim they evolved beyond conflict ages ago, Marcus said. But evolution doesn't work that fast. You don't unlearn aggression in a few thousand generations, let alone eliminate it completely across hundreds of different species. So either they're lying about having no weapons, or they have something else, Marcus finished. Something that makes weapons unnecessary because nobody ever wants to fight them. The puzzle pieces were coming together, but the picture they formed was terrifying. The consortium had a perfect record of peaceful conversion. They had no enemies because every potential enemy became a friend. They had no weapons because they had something better. Ambassador Chen Wei called an emergency session of the United Earth Council. Representatives from every nation and colony attended, their faces projected on screens around the secure conference room. We have a problem, Chen Wei began. The consortium is not what it appears to be. Based on our research, we believe they possess some form of technology or technique that fundamentally alters how species think. It's not mind control in the traditional sense. It's more subtle. It makes beings genuinely want to join them, to think like them, to become them. A representative from the Asian coalition spoke up. Do we have proof? Not the kind that would hold up in court, Chen Wei admitted. But we have patterns, inconsistencies, and gaps in their historical records. We have species that disappeared after refusing membership. We have 439 civilizations that all think exactly alike, despite claiming diversity. And we have our own observations of their behavior, which suggest conditioning or indoctrination. What do you propose? Asked the African Union representative. We need to refuse their offer of membership, Chen Wei said firmly. But we need to do it carefully. If they have the capability we suspect, they might use it on us. Admiral Kowalski stood. We've been preparing for this possibility. We've developed protocols to limit consortium access to our communication networks. We've restricted their movement to supervised areas. And we've been studying their technology for any signs of this hypothetical influence system. But we haven't found it, added Dr. Rebecca Torres, Earth's lead scientist on the project. If this technology exists, it's unlike anything we've ever encountered. It might be quantum-based, biological, or something we don't even have concepts for. The council debated for hours. Some argued that they were being paranoid, that the consortium's success was genuine and humanity should embrace the opportunity. Others insisted that the patterns were too suspicious to ignore. Earth had survived apocalypse and rebuilt itself through caution and determination. They couldn't risk losing everything now. Finally, a decision was reached. Earth would politely decline consortium membership while maintaining diplomatic relations. They would accept some technology transfers but carefully screen everything, and they would quietly prepare defenses against whatever method the consortium used to ensure compliance. Ambassador Chen Wei delivered the decision to High Coordinator Zinthal in a formal meeting aboard the consortium flagship. The alien leader listened with what appeared to be sadness. We are disappointed, Zinthal said, but we respect your choice. Perhaps in time humanity will reconsider. We will maintain our embassy and continue cultural exchanges. We appreciate your understanding, Chen Wei replied, but she noticed something in the alien's manner. It wasn't anger or frustration. It was patience. The patience of someone who knew they would eventually get what they wanted. After the meeting, Chen Wei met with her inner circle in a shielded room where no alien technology could reach. They're too accepting of our refusal, she said. It doesn't match their pattern, Sarah Chen nodded. Every other species accepted within a year. We've now refused. What happens to species that refuse? They disappear from the records, James Okafor said grimly. Or they change their minds. Admiral Kowalski pulled up a star map. The consortium fleet is still in orbit. They claim they're leaving diplomats and cultural exchange personnel, but that flagship alone could house thousands. They're not leaving. They're waiting, Marcus Webb said. Waiting for something, Dr. Torres spoke up hesitantly. There's something else. We've been analyzing the technology they gave us. The medical devices, the educational interfaces, the communication systems, they all have something in common. What? Chen Wei asked. They all emit a very faint quantum frequency. Individually, it's meaningless. But if you had enough of these devices working together, if they were spread across a population, Torres paused. It might create a field effect. something that could influence neural patterns on a massive scale. The room fell silent as the implication sank in. The gifts weren't just gifts. They were vectors for whatever influence system the consortium used. How many devices did we accept? Chen Wei asked quietly. Thousands, Torres replied. They're in hospitals, schools, research facilities. We've already distributed them across Earth and the colonies. Can we shut them down? We'd have to find them all first. And if we do it too obviously, the consortium will know we're onto them. Chen Wei stood and walked to the window, looking out at Earth far below. Her homeworld, rebuilt from ashes, teeming with billions of humans who had survived against impossible odds. She had sworn to protect them. But how could she fight an enemy that won without fighting? We need time, she said finally. Time to understand what we're facing. Time to develop countermeasures. Time to warn others. Others? Kowalski asked. If the consortium does this to every species, then somewhere in this galaxy, there must be other civilizations that either resisted or are about to be contacted. We need to find them. We need allies who understand the threat. Sarah Chen looked at the star map. The galaxy is a big place. How do we even begin to search for species the consortium hasn't assimilated yet? We start with their records, James said. The ones I copied. There are references to civilizations in remote regions, places the consortium hasn't explored yet. If we can reach them first, warn them. It's dangerous, Marcus warned. If the consortium finds out we're interfering with their expansion, they might stop being polite. They were never polite, Chen Wei said. They were predatory. They just smile while they consume you. She turned back to face her team. Humanity didn't survive the collapse by being cautious. We survived by fighting, by refusing to give up even when extinction seemed certain. We're not going to surrender our minds to some ancient empire that thinks it knows what's best for everyone. Admiral Kowalski nodded. So we prepare for war? No, Chen Wei said. We prepare for something worse than war. We prepare to fight for the right to think our own thoughts, to make our own mistakes, to be ourselves even if that means being imperfect. We prepare to resist perfection itself. Over the following months, Earth transformed itself. On the surface, relations with the consortium continued normally. Diplomats exchanged pleasantries. Scientists collaborated on projects. Cultural events were held celebrating human-alien friendship. But underneath, humanity was mobilizing. Every consortium device was secretly modified or replaced with human-built replicas. Research teams worked around the clock to understand the quantum frequencies Torres had detected. Military forces trained for scenarios they had never imagined, preparing to defend not territory but consciousness itself. And in the darkness beyond Earth's solar system, small human ships slipped away quietly, heading for distant stars where other civilizations might exist. Civilizations that didn't yet know about the consortium. Civilizations that still had time to prepare. Commander Vren, still on Earth as an observer, watched these preparations with growing unease. He had come to respect humans during his time among them, even to like them. Their chaos and contradictions were refreshing after centuries in the consortium's perfect order. But he also knew what happened to species that refused. He had seen the records, the gaps, the disappeared civilizations. He knew that humanity's resistance would not be tolerated forever. One night, he found Sarah Chen alone in an observation lounge, staring at the stars. "You're making a mistake," he said quietly. "The consortium only wants to help you." Sarah didn't turn around. "That's what makes it so terrible, Commander. You really believe that, don't you? You genuinely think erasing our individuality is helping us? We don't erase anyone. We elevate, we unite, we bring peace." "You make everyone the same and call it peace," Sarah replied. "You replace genuine diversity with a costume party, where everyone wears different outfits but thinks identical thoughts." She finally looked at him. "Tell me something, Commander. When was the last time you disagreed with another consortium member about something important? When did you last have a doubt about your civilization's righteousness?" Vren opened his mouth to respond, then closed it. He searched his memories and found only consensus, only agreement, only certainty. Even his current unease felt wrong, like a malfunction rather than a valid feeling. He began, then stopped, his exoskeleton trembling slightly. "I don't know." Sarah's expression softened with something like pity. "That's why we're resisting, Commander. Because we want to keep the right to doubt, to disagree, to be wrong. Even if it makes us weaker, even if it means we suffer more, at least we'll be real." Vren left the observation lounge disturbed in ways he couldn't articulate. For the first time in his 3 centuries of life, he wondered if the consortium's perfect peace came at a cost he had never considered. And on Earth, as humans prepared for a conflict unlike any in their history, Ambassador Chen Wei sent a coded message to all the secret expeditions heading into unknown space. Find the others. Warn them, unite them, because when the consortium finally shows its true face, humanity will need all the help it can get. The revelation was coming, and when it arrived, it would turn the heavens to ash. Dr. Sarah Okonkwo stepped off the transport shuttle onto the surface of Velin Prime, homeworld of the Velinar species, one of the oldest members of the consortium. She had requested this archaeological expedition 6 months ago as part of the cultural exchange program, never expecting permission to be granted, but the consortium had been surprisingly accommodating, even eager to show humanity their glorious history. That eagerness should have been her first warning. The Velinar guide, a serpentine being named Saral who moved on 6 delicate legs, greeted her with the universal gesture of welcome. Dr. Okonkwo, we are honored to host you. Velin Prime has 30,000 years of recorded history in the consortium. Where would you like to begin? Sarah smiled, adjusting the camera equipment that would record everything for analysis back on Earth. I'm particularly interested in the transition period, the years just before and after your species joined the consortium. Something flickered across Saral's face, too quick to identify. Of course. The Enlightenment, as we call it. The most important moment in our history. They traveled to the capital city, a place of breathtaking architecture that blended natural formations with constructed beauty. But as Sarah examined the buildings more closely, she noticed something odd. The architectural styles shifted dramatically at a certain historical point. Before that date, buildings were diverse, chaotic, each one different. After that date, they all followed similar principles, similar patterns. Your city changed significantly after joining the consortium, Sarah observed. We improved, Soral replied with pride. We learned better ways to build, to live, to organize our society. Sarah took careful notes, documenting everything. Over the following days, she visited museums, libraries, and historical sites across Velin Prime. What she found was disturbing in its consistency. Every piece of art created before the consortium membership was unique. Experimental, sometimes crude but always individual. After membership, Velinar art became technically perfect but somehow uniform. The same was true of their literature, their music, their philosophy. Before the Enlightenment, 1,000 voices. After, a chorus singing the same song. In the planetary archives, Sarah requested access to records from the transition period itself. She wanted to read first-hand accounts from Velinar who lived through their species' first contact with the consortium. The librarian, an elderly Velinar with faded scales, seemed hesitant. Those records are incomplete. Much was lost during the Enlightenment. Lost how? Destroyed mostly. Our ancestors recognized that many old ways were harmful, divisive. They chose to eliminate such negativity from our cultural memory. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Your ancestors destroyed their own history? Not destroyed, the librarian corrected. Purified. They kept what was valuable and discarded what was not. But Sarah was persistent. She dug deeper into the archives, looking for anything that survived from before the purification. In a forgotten subsection marked for decommissioning, she found fragments. Personal journals, news reports, government documents that somehow escaped destruction. What she read made her hands shake. The consortium's arrival had been welcomed at first. The Velinar were experiencing global conflicts, resource shortages, and environmental collapse. The aliens offered solutions to everything. Technology, knowledge, guidance. All they asked was for the Velinar to embrace consortium principles. The early journals were enthusiastic. The aliens will save us, one Velinar wrote. Their wisdom will end our suffering. But then the entries changed. I attended the first harmony session today. It was beautiful beyond words. I understand now. I see the truth. Why did we ever resist such perfection? After that, the journal stopped criticizing anything. Every entry praised the consortium. Every writer expressed gratitude for the Enlightenment. Their writing styles even changed, becoming more uniform, more measured. Sarah found a government document marked Confidential Security Concern. It was written just 2 weeks after first contact. The aliens have introduced something they call the harmony. Citizens who experience it return changed. They are calmer, more agreeable. and completely devoted to consortium membership. We need to investigate this technology before we allow wider exposure. That was the last critical document in the archive. Everything after it supported the Harmony completely. Sarah copied everything, encrypting the data and hiding it in multiple secure locations. She knew she had found something important, something dangerous. The consortium had a weapon, and it wasn't a gun or a bomb. It was something that made people want to surrender. She requested permission to visit other consortium worlds, other species' homeworlds. To her surprise, permission was granted immediately. It was as if the consortium had nothing to hide. Over the next 3 months, Sarah visited 15 different worlds. On each one, she found the same pattern. Diverse, chaotic civilizations that suddenly became uniform and harmonious after joining the consortium. Historical records that had been purged or rewritten. Art and culture that transformed from unique to universal. And always references to something called the Harmony. On the world of Creth, home to a species of aquatic beings, she found the most detailed surviving account. A scientist named Valkyra had kept a secret journal, hidden in a waterproof container beneath the ocean floor. The journal had been discovered recently and added to the archives before anyone realized what it contained. Valkyra wrote, "I have analyzed the consortium's Harmony technology. It operates on principles I can barely comprehend. It uses quantum entanglement to create resonance patterns in neural tissue. But it's not mind control in the crude sense. It doesn't force you to think certain thoughts. Instead, it makes certain thoughts feel correct, natural, inevitable. It removes cognitive dissonance not by suppressing doubts, but by making doubt itself feel illogical. Resistance becomes literally unthinkable." The journal continued, "I am scheduled for Harmony exposure tomorrow. The government insists all scientists must experience it to verify its safety. I am afraid, not of what it will do to me, but of what I will become. If my analysis is correct after tomorrow, I will no longer want to write these warnings. I will no longer care about preserving Creth's independence. I will only want to serve the consortium, and I will be happy about it. That is the most terrifying part. I will be genuinely, completely happy as my true self is erased." That was the last entry. Sarah checked the records and found that Valkyra became a leading advocate for consortium membership after that date, dedicating her life to spreading Harmony technology to other species. Sarah sent encrypted reports back to Earth, but she knew communication might be compromised. She needed physical evidence, something concrete that couldn't be dismissed as paranoia or misinterpretation. On the industrial world of Paxion 7, she found what she was looking for. The Paxions were a machine species, partly organic and partly synthetic. Their records included technical specifications for all consortium technology they used, including the Harmony. Sarah wasn't an engineer, but she understood enough to recognize what she was seeing. The Harmony was a device that broadcast specific quantum frequencies designed to interact with neural tissue across almost all known biological architectures. It created feedback loops in consciousness itself, amplifying certain thought patterns while dampening others. The specifications were labeled as neural optimization technology for the elimination of suffering and conflict. She was copying the data when Soral found her. The Velinar guide had accompanied her on several world visits, always friendly, always helpful. But now his expression was different, concerned, perhaps even afraid. "Dr. Okonkwo, you have been accessing sensitive technical data without authorization." Sarah stood slowly, holding her data storage device close. "I was given full research access. Access to history and culture, yes, but not to consortium core technologies." Soral moved closer, his 6 legs clicking on the floor. "Why are you so interested in the Harmony?" "Because I want to understand it," Sarah replied carefully. "It's clearly important to your civilization." "It is important to all civilization," Soral said. "The Harmony is the foundation of galactic peace. It is what allows hundreds of species to coexist without conflict. It is our greatest achievement. And if someone doesn't want to experience it?" Soral seemed confused by the question. "Why would anyone refuse?" "The Harmony brings only benefits. It eliminates hatred, violence, and suffering. It helps beings see truth clearly." "What truth?" "That cooperation is superior to competition. That unity is superior to division. That the consortium's way is the only logical path for intelligent species." Soral spoke with absolute conviction, no doubt in his voice. Sarah felt her heart pounding. And what happened to species that saw a different truth? Species that wanted to remain independent? There are no such species, Sorrel replied. All intelligent beings recognize the wisdom of the consortium once they understand it properly. Once they experience the harmony, you mean? Yes, the harmony helps them understand. Sarah took a careful step backward. I need to return to Earth. My research here is complete. Sorrel's expression shifted to something like sadness. I'm afraid that's not possible, not yet. High Coordinator Zinthal has requested your presence. He wishes to discuss your findings, and to offer you a great honor. What honor? The opportunity to experience the harmony yourself, to truly understand what the consortium offers. Once you do, all your concerns will disappear. You will see clearly as we all do. Sarah ran. She didn't think, didn't plan. She just activated her emergency beacon and ran through the corridors of the Paxion research facility. Behind her, she heard Sorrel calling out. Not angry, but confused, as if he couldn't understand why she would flee from something so beneficial. Her beacon would alert Earth's covert operatives on Paxion 7, but she needed to reach them before consortium security found her. She ducked through maintenance tunnels, following maps she had memorized weeks ago just in case. She almost made it. The human safe house was just ahead, hidden in a warehouse district. But as she emerged from the tunnel, she found herself facing High Coordinator Zinthal himself, flanked by a dozen consortium security personnel. Dr. Okonkwo, the mantis-like being said gently, please, there is no need for fear. We only want to help you. Help me like you helped 439 other species? Sarah demanded. Help me by erasing who I am and replacing me with someone who agrees with you? Zinthal seemed genuinely hurt by the accusation. We don't erase anyone. We elevate. We free beings from the burden of destructive thoughts and false beliefs. The harmony doesn't destroy the self. It perfects it. By making everyone think the same way. By helping everyone think correctly, Zinthal corrected. Dr. Okonkwo, I have studied humanity. You are a species that has suffered terribly throughout your history. Wars, genocides, environmental destruction. So much pain caused by your inability to agree, to unify, to see common truth. The harmony can end all of that. It can give your species the peace you have always sought. Sarah gripped her data device tighter. We don't want your peace. We want our freedom. They are the same thing, Zinthal insisted. True freedom comes from liberation from destructive impulses and false ideas. The harmony liberates. It doesn't constrain. Then why do you force it on species that resist? We don't force anything. We simply ensure that every species has the opportunity to experience it. Once they do, they always choose it willingly. Because it rewires their brains to want it, Sarah said. Because it removes the very capacity to resist. Zinthal's expression shifted to something approaching frustration, the first negative emotion Sarah had seen from a consortium member. You speak of resistance as if it were a virtue, but resistance to truth is simply ignorance. Resistance to peace is simply violence. The harmony helps beings overcome their limitations and achieve their full potential. Our limitations are what make us real, Sarah replied. Our doubts, our conflicts, our mistakes. They're not bugs to be fixed. They're features. They're what make us alive. Then you choose suffering over enlightenment? I choose being myself over being your vision of perfect. Zinthal was silent for a moment. Then he made a gesture and the security personnel moved forward. I am sorry, Dr. Okonkwo, but we cannot allow your confusion to spread. Earth is on the verge of accepting our offer. Many of your people already understand the benefits of membership. A few holdouts like yourself are all that remain. Once you experience the harmony, once you truly understand, you will thank us for this. Sarah prepared to fight, knowing it was futile. But before the security personnel could reach her, the warehouse exploded with movement. Human operatives emerged from hiding, armed with weapons that crackled with electromagnetic energy. Marcus Webb, the military consultant from the rescued colony ship, led the team. Step away from her, he ordered, his weapon trained on Zinthal. The consortium security personnel froze, uncertain. They were not trained for violence. The concept was foreign to them. Zinthal raised his hands in a peaceful gesture. This is unnecessary. We can discuss. There's nothing to discuss, Marcus interrupted. You're going to let her go. And you're going to deliver a message to your consortium. Earth knows about the harmony. We know what you do to species that refuse it. And we're going to stop you. You cannot stop evolution, Synthal said sadly. You cannot fight against the tide of history. Every species eventually joins us. Every single one. You will too. We'll see about that, Marcus replied. He gestured to Sarah. Move now. Sarah ran to the human team. They retreated quickly, using technology designed to disrupt consortium sensors. Within minutes, they were aboard a stealth ship, breaking orbit before pursuit could be organized. As they entered faster than light travel, Sarah collapsed into a seat, her hands still shaking. Marcus sat across from her. You okay? I found proof, Sarah said, holding up her data device. Everything we suspected is true. The harmony is real. It's a technology that fundamentally alters consciousness, making species want to join the consortium. And they use it on everyone. Anyone who experiences it becomes an advocate for it because they can no longer conceive of refusing it. How does it work? Quantum neural manipulation. It creates resonance patterns that amplify certain thoughts and suppress others. But it's subtle. Victims don't feel controlled. They feel enlightened. They think they're making free choices, but those choices have been predetermined by the technology. Marcus leaned back, processing the information. So every species in the consortium is essentially brainwashed? Not brainwashed in the traditional sense. They genuinely believe everything they say. They're genuinely happy. But they're happy because the harmony has removed their capacity to be anything else. It's perfect slavery disguised as perfect freedom. And Earth is next. Sarah nodded. We've already refused membership, but the consortium is patient. They're waiting, infiltrating, preparing. They have devices scattered across our planet, probably ready to activate the harmony field at the right moment. When they think enough of us are ready to accept it, they'll activate the system, and then Earth will fall just like every other species. The ship's communication system chimed, a message from Ambassador Chen Wei. Return to Earth immediately. We've intercepted consortium communications. They're planning to activate the harmony field within 2 weeks. They're calling it Operation Enlightenment. They believe they have enough support among human populations to ensure compliance once the field is active. We're out of time. Sarah and Marcus exchanged glances. The revelation they had feared was about to become reality. The consortium's true face would be revealed, and with it would come the battle for humanity's very consciousness. What do we do? Marcus asked. Sarah looked at the data device in her hands, containing proof of the consortium's methods, evidence of their crimes against consciousness itself. We fight. We warn every species we can, and we find a way to break the harmony, to free those who've already been taken. The consortium thinks they're inevitable, that every species must eventually join them, but they've never faced a species like humanity before. A species too stubborn to accept paradise if it cost them their freedom. Marcus smiled grimly. We're going to war with heaven itself. Yes, Sarah agreed. And we're going to turn it to ash. The emergency session of the United Earth Council was held in a bunker, 3 kilometers beneath the Swiss Alps. Every screen showed the same countdown. 8 days until Operation Enlightenment. 8 days until the consortium would activate the harmony field and attempt to convert all of humanity into willing servants of their galactic empire. Ambassador Chen Wei stood before the assembled representatives, her face drawn with exhaustion. She had not slept in 3 days. We have confirmation from multiple sources. The consortium devices we allowed into our hospitals, schools, and research facilities are not what they claimed. They're transmitters designed to create a planetary-scale harmony field. When activated, they will bombard every human on Earth with quantum frequencies designed to alter our neural patterns. Can we destroy the devices? Asked President Morrison of the American Alliance. We're trying, Admiral Kowalski replied. But there are thousands of them, spread across every continent and orbital station. And if we destroy them too obviously, the consortium will know we're onto them and might accelerate their timeline. Chancellor Liu of the Asian Coalition leaned forward. What exactly will happen when they activate this harmony field? Dr. Rebecca Torres, who had been studying the harmony technology since Sarah Okonkwo's escape, pulled up holographic displays. Based on Dr. Okonkwo's data and our own analysis, the harmony creates quantum entanglement between the technology and human neural tissue. It doesn't force you to think specific thoughts. Instead, it makes certain thought patterns feel more natural, more correct, while others feel wrong or illogical. Brainwashing, someone muttered. Worse, Torres corrected. Brainwashing can be resisted if you're aware of it. The harmony operates below conscious awareness. You won't know you've been affected. You'll simply wake up one day believing that joining the consortium is the obvious logical choice. You'll wonder why you ever resisted, and you'll be happy about it. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Premier Okafor of the African Union spoke up. Is there any defense? Any way to block the effect? We're working on it, Torres said. The human brain is remarkably adaptable. We've developed a counter-frequency that might provide some resistance. But we need time to test it, refine it, and distribute it to the population. How much time? Months, maybe a year. We have 8 days, Chen Wei said flatly. Admiral Kowalski stood, his military bearing evident even in the desperate situation. Then we need to change the game. We can't just defend. We need to attack. Attack? President Morrison looked incredulous. The consortium has no weapons, but they also have technology centuries beyond ours. How do we attack someone who can rewrite consciousness itself? We don't attack their technology, Marcus Webb said, stepping forward from where he had been observing. We attack their certainty. The consortium's greatest weakness is that they genuinely believe they're helping. They think the harmony is a gift. They've convinced themselves that erasing free will is enlightenment. We use that against them. How? Chen Wei asked. We broadcast the truth. To everyone. The full truth about what the harmony does. What the consortium has done to 439 species. We show the galaxy that their peaceful utopia is built on the corpses of genuine civilizations. And we do it in a way that even the harmony can't suppress. Dr. Sarah Okonkwo, who had been allowed to attend the session, nodded slowly. The harmony can't make you ignore evidence you've seen with your own eyes. It can make you reinterpret it, rationalize it. But there's a limit. If we can show consortium members what their empire really is, some of them might break through the conditioning. Some? Liu said skeptically. Even some would be revolutionary, Sarah replied. The consortium has existed for 100,000 years without a single dissenting voice. If we can create just a few, if we can prove that breaking free is possible, it might start a cascade. People who see others resisting will find it easier to resist themselves. Admiral Kowalski pulled up a tactical display. The consortium flagship is still in orbit around Earth. High Coordinator Zinthal and most of their leadership are aboard. If we could get our message directly to them, broadcast it on every frequency, they couldn't ignore it. They'll just activate the harmony immediately, Morrison objected. Then we do it simultaneously, Chen Wei said, understanding dawning in her eyes. We broadcast our message to the consortium leadership at the exact moment we attempt to disable the harmony devices on Earth. Even if we can't get them all, even if some humans are affected, the consortium will be exposed. They'll have to either face the truth or prove they're the monsters we claim they are by forcing the harmony on us anyway. It's a gamble, Liu said. Everything is a gamble now, Chen Wei replied. But it's better than waiting for them to erase us. The council debated for hours, but ultimately, there was no real choice. They couldn't defend against the harmony. They couldn't evacuate Earth's billions in time. They couldn't even negotiate. Because the consortium genuinely believed they were saving humanity from itself. The only option was to strike first, to expose the truth and hope it would be enough. Over the next week, humanity mobilized in secret. Military teams identified every consortium device on Earth and the colonies, preparing to disable them simultaneously. Hackers and communication specialists worked to bypass consortium security, to ensure their message would reach every being in the fleet. Scientists distributed the counter-frequency technology, knowing it was incomplete but hoping it would help anyone, resist. And Sarah Okonkwo prepared the message itself. She compiled everything she had learned. The historical records from Velen Prime, the technical specifications from Paxion 7, the testimony from Valkyra's journal. She included video evidence of civilizations before and after joining the consortium, showing the loss of diversity and genuine culture. She added analysis from human psychologists and neuroscientists explaining exactly how the harmony functioned and what it stole from its victims. But most importantly, she added a simple question. If the harmony is truly beneficial, why does it make questioning it impossible? If consortium peace is genuine, why does it require erasing the capacity to disagree? True peace accepts dissent. True harmony allows discord. What you have is neither. It's a beautiful lie that turns living beings into puppets who thank you for cutting their strings. On the 8th day, as the consortium prepared to activate Operation Enlightenment, humanity struck first, across Earth and all human colonies. Teams simultaneously disabled thousands of consortium devices. Not all of them. Some were too well hidden, too deeply integrated into infrastructure. But enough. Enough to disrupt the carefully planned Harmony field. At the same moment, every communication system on the consortium flagship was hijacked. Sarah's message played on every screen, every holographic display, every audio system. The truth about the Harmony flooded through the ship, impossible to ignore or shut down. And then, in a move that shocked even the human planners, Ambassador Chen Wei herself appeared on the broadcast. She stood before a camera, her expression grave but determined. High Coordinator Zinthal, members of the consortium, I speak to you now not as an enemy but as someone who desperately hopes you can still hear truth. Your Harmony technology has been exposed. We know what it does. We know what you've done to hundreds of species. And we know that you believe you've done good. That's the tragedy of this. You've become victims of your own weapon. The Harmony has affected you too, hasn't it? It's made you incapable of questioning your own righteousness. She paused, letting the words sink in. I'm asking you now to do something you probably haven't done in millennia. Doubt, question. Wonder if maybe, just maybe, you're wrong. Your perfect peace has a price. It costs people their authentic selves. It replaces genuine diversity with uniformity wearing different masks. You've created a galaxy of contented slaves who thank you for their chains. We humans are messy, violent, often foolish. We make terrible mistakes. We hurt each other and ourselves. But we're real. Our choices, good or bad, are our own. That's what you want to take from us. And we refuse, even if it means suffering, even if it means conflict, even if it means we're less perfect than you. We choose to be ourselves. You can activate the Harmony now. You can force your perfect peace on us. But if you do, you'll prove everything we've said. You'll prove that your consortium isn't about cooperation, but conquest. That your peace isn't peace but surrender. That your enlightenment is extinction wearing a smile. Or you can choose differently. You can let us remain free. You can prove that your empire can tolerate dissent. That it's strong enough to allow species to say no. You can show the galaxy that you're not the tyrants we fear you are. The choice is yours. But know this. Whatever you decide, we've already sent this message to every corner of the galaxy. Every species, contacted and uncontacted, will know what the Harmony really is. Your secret is exposed. Your perfect record is broken. The question now is whether you'll be remembered as well-meaning fools who learned to change, or as monsters who couldn't. The broadcast ended. Silence fell across Earth as billions of humans waited to see how the consortium would respond. Aboard the consortium flagship, chaos erupted for the first time in thousands of years. High Coordinator Zinthal stood frozen, watching the human broadcast repeat on every screen. Around him, consortium members from a dozen species were experiencing something they had not felt since before the Harmony claimed them. Doubt. The evidence was undeniable. The technical specifications proved the Harmony was more than the beneficial technology they believed it to be. The historical record showed civilizations fundamentally changed, not elevated. The psychological analysis explained how their own certainty had been artificially constructed. But the Harmony was still active in their systems, fighting to suppress these uncomfortable revelations. It whispered that the humans were wrong, confused, primitives who didn't understand the greater good. It urged them to activate Operation Enlightenment immediately, to save humanity from its own ignorance. Coordinator, one of his aides said, voice trembling, the human claims, could they be true? Zinthal wanted to say no. Every fiber of his being, every thought in his mind, urged him to reject the human accusations. But there was something in him, some small part that the Harmony had never fully reached, that whispered, what if? The evidence appears compelling, Cathara said quietly, her crystalline form flickering with unusual instability. I cannot dismiss it as easily as I should be able to. Commander Vren, who had been silent throughout the presentation, spoke up. I have observed humans for months. They are fractious, disagreeable, often illogical, but they are genuine. Their chaos is real. Can we say the same about ourselves? When was the last time any of us genuinely disagreed about something important? The question hung in the air, forbidden and powerful. The Harmony tried to suppress it to make it seem irrelevant. But the seed of doubt had been planted. We must proceed with Operation Enlightenment. another coordinator insisted, but his voice lacked its usual certainty. We must help the humans. They are suffering, are they? Zinthal asked, the words surprising even himself. Or are they simply different from us? He accessed the activation controls for Operation Enlightenment. One command would trigger all remaining Harmony devices on Earth, would begin the process of converting humanity to consortium thinking. It would be easy. It would feel right. But it would also prove the humans correct. Zinthal's hand hovered over the control. Around him his crew watched, their own doubts growing stronger with each passing second. The Harmony was powerful, but it had never been designed to resist a direct confrontation with its own nature. It worked best when its victims never realized they were victims. What if, Zinthal said slowly, each word a struggle against his conditioning? What if we are the ones who need enlightenment? The question broke something. Not the Harmony itself. That technology was too deeply integrated, but the absolute certainty it provided. Doubt flooded through the crew, and with it came the first genuine thoughts they had experienced in decades, centuries, or longer. And in that moment of clarity, Zinthal made a choice that the Harmony would never have allowed. He deactivated Operation Enlightenment. We will not force the Harmony on humanity, he announced, his voice shaking. We will not prove them right about us. The declaration rippled through the consortium fleet. Some members felt relief. Others felt confusion. Many felt fear, not of humans, but of what this decision meant for everything they believed. On Earth, alarms that had been blaring suddenly went silent. The Harmony devices powered down. The threat passed. Ambassador Chen Wei allowed herself a small smile of relief. But she knew this was only the beginning. The consortium had been exposed, but it still existed. The Harmony was still active in billions of beings across the galaxy, and they had only won this battle by appealing to the consortium's own doubts. The real war was yet to come, because while they had stopped the consortium from converting Earth, they had also triggered something far more dangerous, the awakening of the galaxy itself. Across thousands of worlds, beings who had lived under the Harmony for generations were receiving the human message. They were learning what had been done to them, and they were beginning to remember what they had lost. The revelation had turned the heavens to ash. Now came the reckoning. The galaxy burned, not with fire or weapons, but with something far more destructive: truth. In the year following humanity's revelation, over 2,000 worlds descended into chaos as species awakened to what had been stolen from them. The Harmony still functioned, still whispered its comforting certainties, but it could no longer completely suppress the knowledge of its own existence. Billions of beings found themselves trapped between two realities. The one the Harmony told them was true, and the one they now remembered had been taken from them. Ambassador Chen Wei, now 67 and looking older, stood in what had been renamed the Liberation Coordination Center. Screens surrounded her, each showing a different crisis unfolding somewhere in the galaxy. On Velen Prime, riots had broken out between those who wanted to preserve consortium membership and those who demanded their original culture be restored. On Creth, the aquatic species had fractured into 17 separate factions, each claiming to represent the true voice of their people. On Paction 7, the machine beings had literally split themselves, dividing their consciousness between those who accepted the Harmony and those who rejected it. 14 new conflicts reported in the last hour, Admiral Kowalski said, his voice heavy with exhaustion. 3 worlds have completely collapsed their governments. 2 species have declared war on the former consortium leadership, and we're receiving reports that some beings who've had the Harmony removed they're not recovering well. Chen Wei nodded grimly. She had seen the reports. When the Harmony was suddenly disabled in some individuals, the psychological shock was devastating. They had lived for years, sometimes centuries, with artificial certainty and contentment. When that was stripped away, many couldn't cope with the sudden flood of doubt, fear, and genuine emotion. Suicide rates had spiked across dozens of worlds. We freed them, Dr. Rebecca Torres said quietly from her station. But freedom doesn't feel like freedom when you've forgotten how to use it. Do we regret it? Chen Wei asked, not sure she wanted the answer. Torres was quiet for a long moment. No, but I understand why some do. Not everyone viewed the revelation as liberation. Millions, perhaps billions of beings genuinely mourned the loss of the Harmony. They had been happy under its influence, free from doubt and conflict. Now they faced the messy, painful reality of authentic existence, and many wanted their beautiful lie back. The consortium itself had fractured. High Coordinator Zinthal, having experienced doubt for the first time in his life, had become an advocate for what he called voluntary harmony. He argued that species should be allowed to choose whether they wanted the harmony or not. But even he struggled with the implications of his own awakening. Chenwei had met with him several times, and each time she saw the strain in his manner. He was a being trying to think thoughts that his very neural structure had been designed to suppress. "The former consortium leadership wishes to meet with you again," Cathara announced, materializing in the center as a holographic projection. The crystalline being had become humanity's primary liaison with the awakening consortium. She too showed signs of strain. Her once harmonious frequencies now fluctuated wildly, reflecting the chaos in her thoughts. "Tell them I'll be there in an hour," Chenwei replied. The meeting took place on a neutral station orbiting an uninhabited world. Security was intense, not against violence, which the consortium still had little capacity for, but against the possibility of the harmony being weaponized again. Both sides had developed countermeasures, creating an arms race of consciousness itself. Zinthal looked diminished somehow, his once proud bearing replaced with something that might have been shame. Around him sat representatives from dozens of species, each one struggling with the revelation of what their civilization had become. "Ambassador Chenwei," Zinthal began, his voice lacking its former certainty, "we have convened to discuss the crisis. Over 2,000 worlds are in upheaval. Trillions of beings are suffering. Many are calling for the harmony to be restored, arguing that peace, even artificial peace, is preferable to this chaos." "And what do you think?" Chenwei asked. Zinthal's mandibles clicked in what might have been distress. I think I no longer trust my own thoughts. How can I, knowing they were not truly mine? Every decision I made for 3 centuries was influenced by the harmony. Every belief I held was shaped by it. Who am I without it? Who is any of us? You're someone who gets to find out, Chenwei replied. That's the gift and the curse of freedom. You don't know who you'll become. You have to discover it. A Velinar representative, one of Soral's superiors, spoke up. But at what cost? Our civilization was stable for 30,000 years. Now we're tearing ourselves apart. Was this peace you speak of worth the suffering it has caused? The suffering was always there, Sarah Okonkwo said, having joined the meeting as an expert witness. You just couldn't feel it. The harmony didn't eliminate your problems. It eliminated your ability to recognize them as problems. Then give us solutions, another representative demanded. You humans broke the galaxy. Fix it. Chenwei felt the weight of that accusation. Part of her wanted to argue, to defend humanity's actions. But another part, the part that had learned hard lessons over decades of diplomacy, understood their pain. We can't fix it, she said honestly. No one can. There is no solution that will make everyone happy. No policy that will satisfy every need. That's what real civilization looks like. It's messy and imperfect and sometimes unbearable, but it's real. That is not acceptable, the Velinar representative insisted. It's the only truth I can offer you, Chenwei replied. But we can help. Not by imposing solutions, but by sharing what we've learned. Humanity has survived apocalypse, rebuilt from ashes, and learned to live with our own chaos. We can teach you how to disagree without destroying each other, how to maintain peace without artificial harmony, how to be free even when freedom hurts. Zinthal leaned forward. You would help us? After what we tried to do to your species? We don't have a choice, Chenwei said. The galaxy is connected now. If it collapses into permanent chaos, everyone suffers, including Earth. But more than that. She paused, choosing her words carefully. You were victims too. The harmony didn't just enslave the species you contacted. It enslaved you first. You genuinely believed you were helping. That belief was programmed into you. We can't hate you for being weapons aimed at yourselves. The meeting continued for hours, eventually producing a framework that would become known as the Concordat of Conscious Choice. It established several principles. No technology could be used to alter consciousness without explicit, informed consent. Species had the right to refuse contact with others. Diversity of thought and culture would be protected as fundamental rights. And most importantly, a new organization would be formed to help awakening civilizations navigate their freedom. They called it the Beacon Network, and humanity agreed to lead it. Over the following months, Earth became the center of a new kind of galactic civilization. Human diplomats, psychologists, and social scientists spread across the former consortium, teaching species how to argue productively, how to maintain democracy, how to preserve individual rights while building community. It was slow, difficult work. Many species resisted, clinging to remnants of the harmony's certainty. Others embraced their freedom so completely they descended into anarchy. But slowly, gradually, a new pattern emerged. Species began finding their own paths, rediscovering or reinventing their authentic cultures. The galaxy became louder, more chaotic, less perfect, but it also became more alive. Commander Vren visited Earth a year after the revelation. He found Sarah Okonkwo teaching a class at the newly established Institute for Conscious Freedom. Students from a dozen species sat in a semicircle, engaged in what appeared to be a heated debate about ethics and governance. They interrupted each other, disagreed passionately, and seemed thoroughly engaged in the conflict of ideas. "This is learning?" Vren asked, his mandibles clicking with confusion. Sarah smiled. "This is learning. They're teaching each other by challenging each other. No one person has all the answers, so they find truth together through discourse. It seems inefficient. It is, but it's also genuine. They'll remember these arguments, these ideas they fought for or against. They'll own their conclusions in a way they never could if we just told them what to think." Vren watched the students for a while longer. "I am still learning to think without the harmony," he admitted. "It is painful. I doubt everything now. I question my own motives. I wonder if I'm making mistakes." "You probably are," Sarah said gently. "We all do. But they're your mistakes to make. Is that supposed to be comforting? Not really. But it's honest." Vren made a sound that might have been laughter. "Humans are strange beings. You offer uncertainty as a gift." "Because certainty was the poison," Sarah replied. "The harmony promised perfect certainty and it nearly destroyed the galaxy. We offer doubt, and it's saving it." Elsewhere on Earth, Marcus Webb was training the first cohorts of what would become the Beacon Guard. These weren't soldiers in the traditional sense. Their mission wasn't to fight but to protect, to ensure that no one ever again created technology like the harmony, and to defend species' rights to cognitive freedom. "The threat isn't gone," Marcus told his recruits who came from dozens of species. "The harmony still exists in archives, in technical specifications. There will always be those who think they can use it for good, who believe they know what's best for others. Our job is to make sure they never get that chance." One recruit, a young Velinar named Sierra, raised a question. "But what if a species wants the harmony? What if they choose artificial peace over real freedom?" Marcus was quiet for a moment. "Then we protect their right to make that choice. But we make damn sure they understand what they're choosing. We show them the records, the testimonies, the species that lost themselves. If they still want it, if they truly understand the cost and accept it anyway, then that's their choice. But we never let it spread beyond those who choose it. We never let it become a weapon again." On Velen Prime, the planet where Sarah had first discovered the truth, a memorial was being constructed. It would honor all the civilizations that had been lost to the harmony, not destroyed but transformed beyond recognition. Each species got a section showing their culture before and after the Enlightenment. A permanent reminder of what had been taken. Soral, the Velinar guide who had tried to bring Sarah to the harmony, worked on the memorial now. He had been one of the first to have the harmony disabled voluntarily, and the experience had broken something in him, but it had also allowed something new to grow. "I remember now," he told Sarah during the memorial's dedication. "Fragments anyway. Who I was before, what my people were before. We were artists, dreamers, philosophers who argued endlessly about the nature of existence. Now we're trying to remember how to argue again." "It'll take time," Sarah said. "We have lost 30,000 years, Soral replied. "How much time will be enough?" "However much you need. There's no deadline for becoming yourself again." The dedication ceremony was attended by representatives from all former consortium species. High Coordinator Zinthal gave a speech that would be remembered throughout history. "We stand here today in the ashes of heaven," he began, his voice carrying across the assembled crowd. "We built a paradise, or so we believed. Peace, prosperity, perfect harmony. But it was a lie. A beautiful, terrible lie that cost the galaxy its soul." He gestured to the memorial behind him. "These records show what we destroyed. Not with weapons or violence, but with something worse. The certainty that we knew best. We convinced ourselves that eliminating conflict was the highest good. We never questioned whether the cost was too high. Humanity showed us the truth. They resisted our paradise because they understood something we had forgotten. That the right to be wrong, to disagree, to make mistakes, these are not flaws to be corrected. They are the essence of what makes us alive, truly alive, not merely functioning. We cannot undo what was done. We cannot restore what was lost. But we can choose differently going forward. We can build a new civilization, one that celebrates diversity not despite its conflicts but because of them. One that sees disagreement not as a problem to solve but as a feature to preserve. The humans have a saying, freedom is not free. I understand that now. Freedom costs comfort, certainty, and the illusion of perfect peace. But what it gives in return, the authentic experience of existence, the genuine connection with others, the real choice to be who we are, that is worth any price. We stand in ashes, yes. But from ashes, new life grows. Let us tend that growth carefully, protecting it not with the false harmony of the past, but with the real, messy, beautiful chaos of freedom. The speech was met with mixed reactions. Some cheered. Others wept. Many simply stood in silence, processing emotions that the harmony had never allowed them to fully experience. Among the crowd, Dr. James Okafor watched with satisfaction. The human historian who had first questioned the consortium's perfect record had become one of the architects of the new galactic order. He had spent the past year helping species recover their authentic histories, piecing together what had been lost or erased. "We did it," his colleague Dr. Rebecca Torres said beside him. "We actually freed the galaxy." "We started the process," James corrected. "They'll be working out the implications for generations, maybe centuries. Do you think we made the right choice?" James looked at the memorial, at the species learning to be themselves again, at the messy, chaotic, beautiful diversity that was slowly emerging from the ruins of the consortium. Yes, even with all the suffering it caused, even with all the conflicts still to come. Because the alternative was comfortable extinction. This is life. Back on Earth, Ambassador Chen Wei sat in her office reviewing reports from across the galaxy. The beacon network was growing, helping dozens of species navigate their awakening. But there were challenges. Some species couldn't adapt, their cultures too dependent on harmony and forced stability. Others had descended into violence, old conflicts resurging after millennia of suppression. And there were whispers of groups trying to recreate the harmony, believing they could use it more wisely than their predecessors. Chen Wei was under no illusions. The galaxy would never be truly peaceful. There would always be conflicts, always be species that chose poorly, always be challenges that seemed insurmountable. But that was the point. That was what being alive meant. A message appeared on her screen. It was from a distant region of space, from one of the expeditions humanity had sent out before the revelation. They had found an uncontacted species, one the consortium had never reached. The expedition was asking for instructions. How should they approach first contact? What should they offer? What should they say? Chen Wei smiled as she composed her response. It was simple. Tell them the truth. All of it. The good and the bad. The benefits and the costs. Give them a real choice. And whatever they choose, respect it. That's what real first contact looks like. She sent the message and leaned back in her chair. Through her window, she could see Earth turning below. A blue and green jewel that had somehow survived apocalypse and saved the galaxy from a fate worse than death. Her planet, messy and imperfect and beautifully, authentically alive. On the consortium flagship, now renamed the Remembrance, Cathara composed a piece of music. It was the first original composition she had created since the harmony was disabled. The melody was strange, discordant, nothing like the perfect harmonies she had once produced. It hurt to listen to. It was also the most honest thing she had ever made. She played it for Zinthal, who listened with his head tilted in that way his species had when contemplating something difficult. "It's terrible," he said finally. "Yes," Cathara agreed. "Play it again." She did, and they listened together. Two beings learning to appreciate imperfection, to find beauty in discord, to be themselves even when themselves was flawed and uncertain and sometimes painful. Across the galaxy, similar moments played out on thousands of worlds. A Velinar child asked a question her parent couldn't answer. A Paxion being chose to remove their synthetic components, wanting to be more organic. A Creth scientist published a theory that contradicted established consensus, and found colleagues who wanted to debate it rather than simply agree. The galaxy was learning to live again. Really live, not just exist in comfortable stasis. It was painful, chaotic, and often frustrating. But it was real. And at the edge of the galaxy, where humanity had first been discovered, a new monument stood. It was simple. A single pillar reaching toward the stars with words inscribed in every known language. Here humanity was found. Here heaven turned to ash. Here the galaxy learned that peace without choice is a beautiful prison, and that the chaos of freedom, for all its pain, is the only truth worth having. Never again. Not to anyone. Beneath it, added by human hands, a final line. We are the beacon. We guard the darkness so the light may remain genuine. We preserve the right to be wrong, to disagree, to choose. This is our oath. This is our purpose. This is how we honor those who were lost and serve those yet to come. Years would pass. Generations would rise who never knew the harmony's touch. The galaxy would continue its messy, beautiful, chaotic evolution. There would be wars and peace, triumphs and tragedies, progress and setbacks. It would be imperfect. It would be real. And humanity, the species found at the galaxy's edge, the ones who turned heaven to ash because they refused to surrender their souls for comfort, would stand watch, not as rulers or saviors, but as guardians of a simple principle, that every being has the right to be themselves, whatever that means, whatever the cost. The revelation had come, the reckoning had passed, and from the ashes of false heaven a genuine dawn was breaking, imperfect, uncertain, and absolutely beautifully free.